For decades, the face of the Holocaust has been inseparably linked to one name, Adolf Hitler, the dictator who orchestrated the brutal extermination of 6 million Jews. But what if the true architect of this unprecedented genocide wasn't Hitler himself, but the man who quietly turned his murderous vision into a chilling reality? This is the story of Adolf Eichmann, a man whose name is all but forgotten in the public eye, but whose fingerprints are on every part of the Holocaust. Born in 1906 in a small German town, Adolf Eichmann wasn't born into greatness. His childhood was unremarkable, a young man who sought a career in business but ultimately joined the Nazi Party in the early 1930s. By all accounts, Eichmann was an ordinary man, quiet, methodical, even dull. But beneath the surface, he was being shaped for a role that would alter the course of history. He wasn't a fanatic. He wasn't a soldier on the front lines. Eichmann was something far more chilling, an administrator, a bureaucrat, someone who saw people as numbers on a ledger, and death as a task to be completed. By 1939, Eichmann had risen through the ranks of the SS and was tasked with overseeing the mass deportation of Jews from Nazi-occupied countries to concentration camps. He wasn't the one giving the orders, but Eichmann understood the power of logistics, the ability to move millions of people like cattle across the continent, transporting them to their deaths with cold precision. In Eichmann's world, genocide was no more than a technical task, a job to be done. He didn't question the morality, he simply followed the plan, a plan he helped design. He was the man behind the scenes, organizing the greatest atrocity the world had ever known. In January 1942, Eichmann played a pivotal role in the Wannsee Conference, a meeting that would mark the formalization of the final solution, the systematic extermination of Europe's Jewish population. Eichmann wasn't just a passive participant, he was the one who took the notes, who led the conversation, and who proposed the methods that would later be used to murder millions. This wasn't an isolated act of evil, it was a calculated, industrial effort to annihilate an entire people. Eichmann's fingerprints were all over it. Eichmann's indifference to the suffering he caused was chilling. He didn't torture or kill with his hands. Instead, Eichmann sat behind a desk, moving people through his paperwork like pieces on a chessboard. The trains ran on schedule. The camps were kept orderly. In Eichmann's mind, it was just a job. But in reality, he was running the engine of death. His role was clear: deportation, organization, and coordination. Jews were forced onto cattle cars, bound for death camps, with Eichmann ensuring the process ran like a well-oiled machine. He meticulously planned the transport logistics, taking pride in hitting quotas, ensuring that everything ran on time. It's the early part of 1945, Allied forces occupy the German homeland. Eichmann pays a farewell visit to his family in Austria. He gives poison to his wife for herself and the children if they are captured by the Russians. April 30th, 1945, Hitler commits suicide. Then May 7th, 1945, Germany surrenders. Eichmann is captured by the Americans near Ulm. Eichmann pulls some tricks and manages to escape capture. He finds a way to a monastery in Genoa, Italy, where a Franciscan monk provides Eichmann with a refugee passport bearing the name Riccardo Clement. In July 14, 1950, Eichmann, now Riccardo Clement, obtains an Argentine visa. A month later he lands in Buenos Aires, where he lived under that false name for years. To the world, Eichmann was just another Nazi fugitive, but his past was one of unimaginable evil. He had escaped justice. Or so he thought. In 1960, the Israeli Secret Service, Mossad, tracked him down in Argentina. Eichmann was arrested, bound, and shipped to Israel, where he would face trial for his war crimes. The trial of Adolf Eichmann in 1961 was a global event. For the first time, the world saw the man behind the Holocaust, a man who didn't boast of his actions but defended them as simple bureaucracy. His defense? He was just following orders. Eichmann claimed he was merely a cog in the Nazi machine, an obedient bureaucrat doing his duty. But the world saw through his excuses. He was responsible. He was the architect of genocide. He was the man who made genocide efficient. The man who turned cruelty into a mechanical task. Eichmann's trial would become a chilling reminder of just how ordinary evil can look. During Eichmann's trial, two figures emerged as pivotal in ensuring that justice was served, one in the courtroom and one on the bench. The presiding judge, Justice Yitzhak Reva, was a Holocaust survivor, carrying the immense weight of personal history into the courtroom. Having lost much of his family in the Holocaust, Reva's role as the judge was more than a professional obligation, it was deeply personal. The man responsible for millions of deaths was now in his courtroom, and Reva's unyielding calm in the face of Eichmann's cold indifference was both chilling and heroic. He oversaw every aspect of the trial, ensuring that Eichmann's crimes were meticulously detailed and legally addressed. Alongside Reva was Gabriel Bach, who died in 2022 at the age of 94. He was one of the three prosecutors in Eichmann's trial. Bach, a former member of the Israeli Supreme Court, was a Jewish prosecutor who brought with him not just legal expertise, but a searing personal connection to the crimes Eichmann had committed. As a child, Bach had narrowly escaped the horrors of Nazi-occupied Europe. His role in the trial was both a duty and a personal mission, to bring to justice the man who had made the systematic extermination of Jews not just possible, but efficient. Bach's strategy was relentless. With each question posed to Eichmann, Bach focused on dismantling the defense of just following orders. Eichmann, despite his attempts to distance himself from responsibility, was cornered by Bach's probing cross-examinations. Every legal move Bach made was steeped in the knowledge that his pursuit of justice was not just for the victims, but for those like him, who had lived through the horrors and survived to demand accountability. Together, Justice Reva and Gabriel Bach formed the backbone of the trial, ensuring that Eichmann would face not only the legal consequences of his actions but the moral reckoning that had been long overdue. They weren't just representing the law, they were representing the survivors, the millions who had perished, and the world's demand for accountability. Adolf Eichmann was executed in 1962 for his role in the Holocaust. But his story isn't just one of a man who followed orders, it's the story of how an ordinary man became a key figure in one of history's most horrifying genocides. Eichmann wasn't just an obedient soldier. He was a mastermind of death. He was the man who took Hitler's words and turned them into reality, with cold precision, no hesitation, and no remorse. In the end, Eichmann's legacy is a chilling reminder that the greatest evil in history doesn't always come from the most monstrous face. Sometimes, it comes from a man who believes he's just doing his job.